lot of folks think that administrators, or in some cases true, administrators and providers do not get along. I side on the side of providers because they are trained to be right every single time. And a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, they go through all their, 7, 10, how many every years of training they're going through to be right every single time. And so you really have to sit down and collaborate and say, look, we need to set everybody's egos aside, and we need to be able to learn to truly communicate with each other and give each other the pieces that they need to be able to move all of this forward. I mean, when these guys in the treatment facility wake up at 6 and they go to their therapy treatment plans, and they come back and then they go through some work, whether it's at the farm or whether it's at the facility, and then they get their treatments through massage therapy, or they have an aerobic session or whatever that is, 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, they're exhausted. But that's just life. It's getting them back into the swing of things so that they can be productive citizens for everybody.
Welcome to the Brainwaves podcast by Opus, where we sit down with industry leaders to unpack their journeys, explore key challenges, and talk about how they're shaping the future of behavioral health and healthcare technology. I'm your host, Sean Rickenbacker, and today we're talking about what it really takes to treat the whole person in healthcare, bridging the gap between mental and physical health, and even thinking outside the box about healing. We'll explore how combining primary care with behavioral health services can improve outcomes and how creative approaches are helping people in new ways. Our guest today is James Granger, COO of Southeastern Integrated Care in North Carolina. James started his career in the restaurant and hospitality industry before moving into healthcare leadership. And now he's helping to build a holistic model that blends mental health care with primary medical care for underserved communities. He's even been involved in launching an equine therapy program on a farm. Part of his mission to support mind, body, and spirit recovery. Today, we'll talk about how his unconventional journey shaped his servant leadership style, why integrating care matters for patients, and what innovations bring to the table. James, thanks so much for joining me today. Let's start with your background. I know that you spent a lot of time in the food and beverage industries before pivoting into healthcare, and we talked about that before. What inspired that career shift, and how was your experience in the food and beverage industry translated into healthcare so far?
Well, thank you for having me, Sean. And to be honest with you, I've always wanted to help people, serve people in whatever way that I was led to do so. The transition for me from the food and beverage industry was because of two things, really. One was wanted to start a family, get married. The restaurant business is tough on those type of things, but I also just wanted to really serve. And I found that the healthcare industry, especially in rural areas like we are now, is a great way to kind of fulfill what I want to do, or what I wanted to do at the time. And it really, for me anyway, helping people who are not doing very well physically, mentally, whatever that may be, just gives me that ultimate satisfaction of being a servant leader, if that makes sense.
I know you talked about being in like a rural area, and there is, I know, a stereotype with like farmers and rural people that like healthcare isn't something they want to think about. They're like, I can handle it on my own. And people say with farmers, unless they're in critical condition, they don't come in the hospital. How has it been serving people and helping to bring care to those people that maybe don't feel like they need it, or
it's
like
just
they want it?
education. It's just the constant communication, marketing, being out in the community, explaining to the folks that, your health is important, both mentally and physically. And you're right. The challenge is farmers are pretty self-sufficient, and they do not feel like they need to come to a family medicine practice or an internal medicine practice or behavioral health practice until they absolutely have to. And oftentimes that can be too late, especially if it's related to heart disease or diabetes or any of those comorbidities that tend to be a big part of rural areas. We have 5 comorbidities that are in our area. This is a very proud area in terms of heritage in farming. It was one of the largest tobacco industries in North Carolina, in my area. I mean, really, really big part of the tobacco industry that was in the state of North Carolina, and it just all went away. And then with the exit of manufacturing back in the 80s and 90s, that went away as well at the same time. So being able to transition those folks with that mentality into better health. It has been a challenge, but we're making progress, and we have a pretty good hospital system here with UNC. And so more and more as we go along and we try to educate folks and just show them, hey, this is a way for us to keep you healthy, maintain your health, so you hopefully won't have bigger issues down the road. It's getting some traction, but again, it's an effort every day. Every day you have to educate.
I definitely part of like serving people is educating them for sure.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I know we had talked about, of course, your organization being a holistic
hmm
approach to
hmm
health and wellness. Tell me more about like the split between behavioral health versus like physical health and how that started, how it's going, and that sort of thing.
So what I learned in the hospital world in the time that I spent at the hospital is that when you're a medical student, okay, and you're going through your rotations as to what you want to be. Do you want to be family medicine? Do you want to specialize in surgery? Do you want to specialize in internal medicine? Whatever that may be, that you had to divide your path. So if you wanted to be a family medicine physician, for example, typically speaking, you would go through one rotation for mental health. You'd go through one rotation for OBGYN. You go through one rotation for something else. And what we saw is that once that path was taken on the family medicine side or the surgical side or the internal medicine side, and then the other path, if you wanted to do the mental health side, would be, obviously steering towards psychiatry and other things to do with mental health. There was never any really cohesiveness between the two. It was divided. So in our world, if you came to the mental health, or if you came to a primary care physician and you presented mental health or substance use issues, you would be referred out, obviously, to that side. And so, especially in rural areas where there's not a lot of resources in terms of a lot of those psychiatrists, a lot of those mental health facilities, a lot of primary care doctors, whatever that may be, that it just made sense to us to try to bring the two together. Now, you hear a lot of talk about integrated care and you hear a lot of talk about continuum and all that kind of stuff, but it never has been really put into practice, especially in rural areas. And so we decided, using the simple analogy that the head is connected to the body, that we would bring the two together and that we would use the resources of our psychiatrists and our psychiatric nurse practitioners and use the resources of our family medicine doctors and our family medicine nurse practitioners to collaborate together to get each other used to the fact of working together within the same facility to try to treat the whole mind and body. And so it was rough at first. There was a lot of questions, but we have almost daily collaborative meetings between our mental health and substance use folks and our primary care folks. And it's really starting to come together well. We use integrated care nurses to be able to navigate patients back and forth. But we just found it was a lot easier to keep those patients engaged within our continuum that we've built so that there's no lapse in service. Okay. And that's really important. And again, in a rural area, if you have a lapse in service, or it takes 3 weeks to get somebody in to see somebody that you've had to refer out, there oftentimes can be issues within those 3 weeks to where you almost have to start over. Whether they go back to the ED or you can't find them, which is oftentimes you cannot find these clients unless you have your hands on them 24/7. So we just felt like through that learning in the hospital environment to where that we just really needed to bring these folks together. And at some point, we've got to educate the institutions who are the medical schools that these two things, the mental health substance use side and the physical health side, really needs to be a more robust and connecting continuum to be able to have these folks ready to treat both, because they're just not now. It's not anybody's fault necessarily. It's just the fact that there has to be more attention paid to both sides within that medical school environment so that they're better prepared to treat their patients, right? So as the demand grows, and it's growing exponentially every day, as it becomes more and more to the forefront, it's even more important that this starts to take place to where people can be treated within their community that they're in the facilities that they have ability, the capability to get to get better. So
Absolutely. Again, I love what you said about, the head is connected to the body. If you were going to give advice to somebody who works at a behavioral health practice or even a physician's office, trying to connect the two in their organization, what are some like operational tips you'd give when combining those two kinds of organizations?
So yeah, the biggest thing you're probably going to laugh at this. The biggest thing is you got to get everybody to set aside their egos. So that's number one. And I'm serious about that because you have the psychiatric world who have been trained their whole entire academic career to do it one way. And then the other side, on the physical side, same thing. A lot of folks think that administrators, or in some cases true, administrators and providers do not get along. I side on the side of providers because they are trained to be right every single time. And a lot of people don't realize that. I mean, they go through all their, 7, 10, how many every years of training they're going through to be right every single time. And so you really have to sit down and collaborate and say, look, we need to set everybody's egos aside, and we need to be able to learn to truly communicate with each other and give each other the pieces that they need to be able to move all of this forward. And that's where it starts. And that's where it started with us. It took us 3 months to really get everybody to sit down to buy into the fact that this is how we're going to treat our ecosystem from here on out. We're going to do the biosocial, psycho, spiritual aspect of it. And that we bring the resources in to be able to help us do that. It may be a consultant from the outside that comes in that's done this in another part of the country, and then be able to find the right combination. Not everybody works out. We flipped our medical staff over twice on the physical side. We turned them over because it just wasn't working. We finally found a group of FNPs and doctors that kind of agree this is the route we need to go, just because the pressure that's put on the system. And on the psychiatric side, for the most part, the guys and the ladies were very cooperative in that collaboration. And so that's where I would start. My advice was to be, one, you got to set everybody's aside, set the egos aside. Two, you got to get the people that's open-minded enough to be able to communicate with each other and present those ideas that they have and do what's best for the client. And so that's how it all started for us. And it's worked. Knock on wood, it's worked very well.
Yeah, that's awesome. I think definitely across the board, obviously I've talked to a lot of people on the behavioral health side, and this is something we think about internally. You got to find the right people who are willing to put in the work and work together as a team. And it sounds like your team has figured that one out. Obviously it's a journey, but it's great to hear that somebody's doing it, especially combining the body to the head.
Yeah. Yeah. It's growing every day. What we're able to do, what we're able to treat, how we're able to treat it. It's evolving day to day, and it's now become a system to where we're in 19 North Carolina counties doing various types of behavioral health and physical health. Telehealth's a big component. You got to be willing to do that piece of it. But the face-to-face intervention is our number one priority, and telehealth has its place. Some people use it as a substitute. It's not a substitute for us. It's a piece of the pie to make all of this work. But the face-to-face interaction is the key. And so you got to reach far and wide to find those people that are willing to work in a rural area to do it, and you got to compensate them for it. And if you do that, you do it the right way, everything else will take care of itself.
Absolutely. When we talked on our call before, I know we had briefly discussed, obviously, combining the physical side with the mental health side and like psychosocial, et cetera, bringing that all together has been a challenge in and of itself. I know most systems are very tailored towards one or the other.
Correct.
How has your journey been in trying to find systems that support your clients where they are and the things that they need?
Well, that's also evolved. More and more systems are starting to collaborate with us because of what we're doing. Let me give you a prime example. Everybody knows there's always been a lot of pressure on EDs of hospitals. So in not all areas, but in most rural areas, there's not a behavioral health component to the hospital. We fortunately, and where our corporate office is, actually have a psychiatric unit, which is rare for a rural area. But nonetheless, most of the hospitals are not equipped to handle that, right? Same with the sheriff's departments. If you have some substance use issues or some severe mental health issues, those guys are not equipped to handle these kinds of issues. So as we have gone to present to the hospitals, and we have gone to present to the various law enforcement agencies on what our model is, and then show proof of our outcomes, which is less admissions to the ED, which is having a team, which we call mobile crisis team, having teams to go out with the sheriff's department to de-escalate issues going on. Now they're starting to buy in to say, okay, where can I help you? Do you need to embed a person in our sheriff's department? Do you need to embed some people in our emergency room? And so we're starting to do that. We're starting to embed folks in sheriff's departments. We're starting to embed folks in emergency rooms so we can help them de-escalate any issues. And if it's not an acute issue, we can get them out into one of our services within 24 hours. And so as that grows, the trust becomes more and more palatable for these organizations, and they're starting to help. So we just started a collaboration with a fairly large hospital that's in one of our areas, and we're very excited to be able to launch a mobile crisis team with them, as well as the same sheriff's department within that county. And we hope to do that in 4 other counties to kind of solidify the area that we're in now, and then we'll take that beyond just where we are and hopefully to the western part of the state up north. So, but that's how it all starts. You just got to, it's really a leap of faith on the hospital and the sheriff's department's part. But once we show the data and show how it works, they really, really have started to come on board with us to the point that we're actually fixing to open our first behavioral health urgent care. Our partners are with Trillium Health, who's been an extraordinary partner for us in North Carolina. We're partnering together to open the first regional behavioral health center and urgent care in our county that will probably serve 2 or 3 counties around us as well. So that's gonna obviously take some pressure off the emergency department locally, and it's also going to take pressure off what we would call a mainstream urgent care. Right, if somebody were to walk in, we can hopefully get a hold of those patients and get them into the right services without disrupting the normal care. Hospitals, emergency rooms are very, very well equipped to handle trauma. They're very well equipped to handle heart attacks, for example. When you have 50% or 60% of your visits related to substance use or mental health issue, that tends to disrupt their other services. And that's where the clog becomes, and that's where the frustration becomes, is how do we fix it? And so that's how we've addressed it. And so far it's working. It's starting to work very well.
I love that. I mean, obviously it makes sense with the head connected to the body to, in essence, marry those two services, organizations, et cetera, make sure that your patients are able to get holistic care. But it's great to hear that from an organizational and administrative standpoint, that it's able to, I want to say, compensate for each other, pulling the behavioral health into like the mental health practice, frees up the time of the physicians to be able to like help people physically, especially like you said, with the urgent care.
It does.
I love that.
It does. And that integrated nurse team that we have that works both sides is kind of the key to all that, because they can communicate with the providers on either side. It's the same building, but they can communicate with the providers on either side, almost like a case management type role. But having that nursing background obviously helps a lot with the communication to those providers, because frankly, providers don't want to talk to administrators. Providers want to talk to providers. And we try to educate some of our providers to become administrators in terms of having that kind of business acumen, operational acumen role. But the core of it all is providers communicating with providers and us administrators trusting the fact that they can help us lead all this stuff, move all this stuff forward. So it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like you guys have put in a lot of great work to get it going, to get a great system going on. So
yeah, it's been very rewarding.
I want to pivot a little bit. I know in our intro, we briefly talked about the horse therapy that your organization has been doing. Tell me a little bit more about that, maybe how that started.
So again, it's all a part of this continuum. We're a little bit different than most agencies are in that we have made the conscious decision to put every possible service line we can into place through our continuum, including the integration of behavioral health and physical health, right? Well, one of those it's not an ancillary service, really. One of those things that is missing or was missing from our continuum was the use of horses or animals, for that matter, to be able to. There's always been a connection for whatever reason with humans and animals. Well, equine therapy is a tool that has been used throughout our area as with veterans, with children, and everything in between, as a great therapeutic alternative to maybe the one-on-one type therapy you would experience in an office, right? You're outside, you're in nature, you're with horses. We have therapists that are obviously with the clients in that, but it truly has shown some results that you may not necessarily see in an office type environment. So we put it into practice. We started with a couple of horses. We have a certified equine. So we also have our behavioral health therapist. Right now we're bringing children out there one at a time from our group homes as a part of their therapy. And then in a couple of weeks, we'll start bringing in veterans from our various veteran administrations and offices around our area to be able to provide that. It's just again, it's something that is not a part of everybody's continuum, but everything that we can do. Again, our part of our mission statement is not bound by convention. And for us, that means that we need to provide every possible resource that is clinically known to provide results. And equine therapy was that next piece of it. And it goes in conjunction with, frankly, our working farms. So we have started out with a 75-acre farm, has cows and pigs and chickens and goats, the whole gamut of animals, for two reasons. One, for food production, but two, to create that atmosphere to where we can either bring children who are coming out of the high school age and not sure what they want to do in terms of school, and adults who are being integrated back into a workforce to go out there on that working farm and start bringing back into normal, if you want to call it normal life, I guess, but integrating those folks from their treatment back into the workforce. And around here anyway, agriculture is well known, and that equine therapy and that working on that farm is just something that they are in most cases familiar with as a natural progression to their recovery. It's kind of a long answer.
Yeah, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah. So, but that's how it's evolved. Now we're at 6 horses, and we're going to duplicate that. We're going to duplicate 75, 50-acre farms everywhere some of our major centers are, and just have it run the same way that we're doing it here at our home base as a part of our continuum for recovery. So,
That's
and it
sweet.
works well. The kids have responded tremendously well to it, and we know the veterans will too. It's been proven. We want to slowly make sure we're doing it the right way, and we'll be at capacity probably with our full program by the end of the year here, and then we'll move it to another location to start the same thing again.
To be completely honest, I hadn't even heard about equine therapy until we started chatting about it. But what does that look like? Is it just like therapy with a therapist on a horse? Is it just spending time with like a service animal?
No, so it's two therapists. It is a certified equine therapist, and then it's a licensed clinical social worker who does therapy within our existing children's homes, right? So they're both on site. Okay. Initially, it's walking the horse, grooming the horse, just interaction for about 30 to 45 minutes. And then once they're comfortable with that, then we'll get into the riding portion of it. But for now, it's just interaction, grooming, like I said, feeding the horse. We also have what we call a barn manager who takes care of the stalls, takes care of the horses, the tack room, and all that stuff. So it's a combination of that entire team to bring that experience to the folks. And there's also a safety issue. Most of our horses are retired and they have a very, very calm demeanor. But we also have to have, just in case, the experienced folks out there to know how to handle them in case something went a little bit sideways. We have not had that issue yet, thankfully, but it's the whole team. It's that licensed clinical social worker that does the daily therapy, the equine certified therapist, and then our barn manager, all working together to make it a good experience for our clients. Beautiful setting. It's just been great. But again, that it's a part of that whole continuum and the whole atmosphere of the farm that really makes it all work.
Awesome. I love that. I know we had talked a little bit about this being an unconventional method and you and your organization bringing in the, obviously the idea that if you always do the same thing everybody's always done, you'll always get the results everybody's always gotten. What other ways is your organization innovating in the space? Like what other unconventional methods are you using?
So a couple of things. Thank you for asking that. So we have a transportation system. The transportation in rural areas is very inadequate. No busing, no trains, so clients being able to get to their appointments has been a barrier. It was that way at the hospital. I mean, same thing. So no-show rates are fairly high. So being able to implement that transportation system, we're 87 vehicles now, is critically important to be able to do that. Some other things that are pretty cool, I think, is at our treatment facility, we just opened a 78-bed substance use facility for males over the age of 18. We have an athletic trainer that comes in twice a week. We have an acupuncturist that comes in. We have a massage therapist that comes in. We've got a workforce development coordinator that has been employed by our local community college for several years that knows workforce development, meaning that We can help you get your GED if you need to get it. We can help you get HVAC training, electrical training, whatever that training may be that you're interested in to be able to enter back into the workforce. We've got an agriculture supervisor that is going to help us with our farm in terms of growing strawberries and blueberries and things of that nature that the guys and the ladies can come back in and have their own farmers market type deal. So those are just a few of the things that are probably different, especially the acupuncturist. What's an acupuncturist? She goes to work, she goes in there, and the guys, man, that's the best thing I've ever had. And so our physical trainer is a guy who's done athletic training here for a long, long time. I mean, when these guys in the treatment facility wake up at 6 and they go to their therapy treatment plans, and they come back and then they go through some work, whether it's at the farm or whether it's at the facility, and then they get their treatments through massage therapy, or they have an aerobic session or whatever that is. 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock at night, they're exhausted. But that's just life. That's getting them back into the swing of things so that they can be productive citizens for everybody. And so that's working. That's pretty unconventional as far as I know.
Yeah. I mean, as far as I've heard too, that sounds unconventional.
Yeah. So that's we also do farm. We have a certified nutritionist, which may be a little bit different, but it's a proven fact that nutrition is a huge part of mental and physical health. And so we actually provide all the meals, obviously, for our treatment center, but we also provide the meals for our group homes. And then we provide the lunches for our SACOP facilities that we're doing substance use treatment in. All in mind. This is where the physical and the mental health part really works well together, because if we know somebody's having rising A1Cs or rising cholesterol problem, they're either one, getting food snuck in somehow, or the combination of what medicines they're on, or the menu, or whatever that is. We just got a guy Friday, that's a vegan. So cool. We're gonna adapt that menu for that particular person to where they can still be a vegan. And so being able to do all that stuff and having the resources that are necessary to be able to pull it off is a huge part of us being successful. Again, it's a little bit out of the box. From a pure business standpoint, you would probably say, well, that's not the wisest thing to do financially. But the financial piece will take care of itself if you do the right thing. We just got to trust it. And that's what we've chosen to do, is trust everything we put into place, and the business part will take care of itself.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. Definitely something where when you try to take care of your community and take care of doing business for the right reasons, it will take care of itself.
It will. And it's the hardest thing for people to overcome, but you just got to do it.
Absolutely. And it sounds like, obviously, with your service mindset and helping your community, you are building this fantastic hub for people in this rural community that might not normally have access to this.
Correct.
Almost a community center of all these awesome services. Like you said, bringing in an acupuncturist and all these things. It's great to finally have a place for this community to partake in all these super necessary services. And I love that you've got a nutritionist on staff. I agree. I'm big into nutrition, big into food. Obviously, the head's connected to the body, which is the stomach, everything. Absolutely love that, James.
Yep. And we're gonna eventually take it to the bigger cities, to the metropolitan areas, and use that method to do the same thing. Different set of circumstances, when you're in a center of 1 million people or whatever, they have different issues and whatnot, but the principle's the same. For us anyway. And so that's the next challenge for us, is to be able to take it to the bigger cities.
I love that. And thank you, James, for giving me insight into your organization and, of course, what's next as well. I know we're coming up on time. I want to be respectful of you and your time. I know we've all got busy days, but I always ask this question. Do you have any book recommendations?
I'm actually, believe it or not, I am actually not a huge, the one that I tell everybody to read is Who Moved My Cheese. That's the one that I've read. I'm not a huge book reader. My wife's actually a professor, and she reads a lot, but I've always been I'm a grassroots kind of in the weeds kind of person that learns that way, to be honest with you.
Totally get that.
But Who Moved My Cheese was a pretty good one. But other than that, sorry, I don't have anything intellectually for you on that front.
Hey, totally awesome. I love that. I'll definitely look into Who Moved My Cheese. Obviously, I'm big on books. That's why I always ask the question. But yeah, I'll definitely check that out. And it's been great to hear from you, James. And honestly, it's been a pleasure having you on the podcast. So thanks again for your time.
Oh, listen, thank you. And I appreciate what you guys are doing. I think you're bringing about awareness. Hopefully this will blow up for you and get bigger and bigger and bigger because the awareness is needed. I mean, it's just more and more folks pay attention to it, the better off we're going to be.
And it's great to compare notes and share ideas. And like you said, your organization is doing a lot of great unconventional things that I think a lot of people can learn stuff from.